You're listening to the Full 10 Yards of Britball podcast with your host, Timothy Lambert-Monk. Yes, welcome in, one and all. This is the Full 10 Yards at Britball podcast. Thank you all so much for joining us. We are one week, ladies and gents, 1 week away from the regionalised 2021 BAFA season. 1 week, guys. Obviously, this time next week, hopefully we'll have some BAFA, some Britball results in the books, and all will seem just a little bit more normal again. So obviously fingers crossed. Who knows what can happen between now and next week? Maybe another team will drop out, but we'll get to that one in a bit shortly. Anyway, but as you can see, I've brought some friends into the huddle to help me preview the upcoming season. They're very much more knowledgeable than I am. So let's find out who they are. Just before we do, actually, obviously, it's the Britball season up and coming. We will be bringing you content throughout the season each week, either through podcasting or on the website as well. So make sure you are trying to follow us as much as you can on social at Full 10 Yards or at F10Y Britball. Obviously, full10yards.com/Britball is the website. But let's bring the guys into the huddle. First up on the top right-hand corner, you can see Mr. Steve at Price. He does lots and lots of things, and I'll get him to plug them all at the end. But obviously, Steve, you're known for the British American football community Facebook group, Gridiron Hub, amongst other things. How are you doing this Sunday evening?
Yeah, good, thanks. And thanks for having us on, Tim. First of all, it's great to sort of get involved in the wider network, of Britball coverage. So really pleased to be here, mate. But I'm feeling good, thank you. Yeah, Father's Day, so it was good.
As I say, it's quite weird. I don't know if it's just like kind of the American football community, but say we've been speaking for God knows, probably in years now. But it's obviously the first time I speak
about different initiatives, isn't it? Different little bits and pieces. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, this is our first time sort of actually properly conversing and seeing each other at the same time as well.
Do you want to do elbow? Do you want to see if you can get elbow on the side of the screen? There you go. There you go. I don't know if anyone's ever tried. That was quite cool. I might do that. That might be something. Let's get Sean and Chris. You want to try and do an elbow as well? See if you can get your coordination right. Go on, Pete.
Go right into the corner.
Both went the wrong way. Brilliant. I only need to go this way because the door's on my left-hand side. But there we go. Chris, Sean, obviously welcome you guys in as well. Guys might know you obviously from content on Gridiron Hub and obviously Britball with the Breens podcast that you guys do. How are you doing on this Sunday? I suppose it's evening now, and looking forward to the upcoming season.
Yeah, I think doing all right. Like been a busy couple of weeks for us, kind of getting everything in place to start our show up again. It's been a long time without it, but obviously we've been putting together a lot of articles about Britball recently and kind of watching everything that's going on. So it'd be nice to get going again.
Yeah, definitely. Just as we say, looking forward to it getting started. We've waited so long, and just preparing to kind of get back into it and hoping that everything kind of just goes as smoothly as it can, and kind of it just runs how it should do, even in sort of this unusual season that we're going to be having.
Yeah, absolutely. And see, obviously, we've always had bumps along the road before we've even gotten started. And Steve, obviously, we mentioned before we pressed the record button that it's kind of a bit of a weird one in terms of getting excited for the season. You mentioned about that. There's no hype train, and half of us are maybe expecting something to go down the pan, whether it be COVID, whether it be teams dropping out or whatnot. But what's your kind of your thoughts on the upcoming season? Do you think we'll get to the end of the season? Do you think obviously we've got bold predictions at the end, but you're just a bit more around subdued excitement, I suppose.
There's a trepidation, and I don't think that trepidation is exclusive to the sport, right? So it's societal. And the world, right? Like, so we haven't had a lot to get excited about for a long time, and we've had our freedoms of different types taken away, and to have this wonderful game back I know we're not going to be returning to life as normal, but to have American football back, and full contact, 11 aside, it almost feels like a it's surreal, like a treat. It feels like it's like, oh, we're going to get it taken away from us because it will end up breaching rules or whatever. But but also like the clubs are doing, clubs are starting to do. I saw a lot of like 1 week to go posts today, which was cool on Instagram. And I don't really follow clubs on Facebook. I typically follow them more on Instagram and Twitter. Saw some like people starting to sort of build the buzz. But I think it's actually going to be when it's here, and like you say, this time next week, once we've got the results in, I think that's when it's going to really start to kick in. Like there's no like build. It doesn't feel like there's going to be much of a build up to it. Certainly from BAFA's perspective, like all of their updates at the moment are just like these are the latest rules. This is what we're allowed to do. This is what we're trying to enable, and it feels very serious and very and it is, and it has to be, like, for the right reasons. But we're not used to that, right? We're used to sort of like getting excited and a little bit of trash talking between teams and all that sort of stuff. And and Chris and Sean are very good at harboring that and facilitating through their content discussions, and sometimes they put noses out of place, but have always got logic to it, and it just feels there's been a huge lack of that in general. So it's very, very odd season. In terms of, do I think it's going to finish? Do you know what? I've never even contemplated that question. I think it's more likely to not finish than finish. If you're going to press me for an answer, like, yeah, I do. And I know that sounds probably pessimistic, but that's my mindset. I actually think we're going to see. You talked about teams dropping out. I think we're going to see some. Once the games have started to be played and like the structures of the league start to form a little bit, who's bad, who's good, how are these teams playing, I think you're going to start seeing teams pulling out and forfeiting games because there's no comeback from it. And then the other thing that I think is quite interesting, I was chatting to someone on the Gridiron Hub team who's an Ooze Valley player, and he was saying these guys were getting really excited about the potential of winning a ring this season. That's what they've been talking about. And I was like, that ring's worthless. But it's like, that's the other element. It's a non-competitive league. There will be finals but no playoffs, so that's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. Is it just going to be divisional 1 versus 2, or do they do top of divisions versus each other? That's yet to be released. I'm sure they've got different. I'm glad.
Do you know what, Steve? I'm glad you said that, because I couldn't, for the life of me, find anything was happening after.
That was something that BAFA said and something I'm aware of. But again, it's like there's not been much communicated about it. But as it stands, or the last time I found out, you got to be so careful how you say stuff. But there's a plan for finals to take place. But that's all we know. Like, we don't know if it's going to be a centralized venue that people can go to. Is it going to be split by divisions? How are they going to figure it out? But there certainly won't be quarter or semi-finals. It would just be finals.
Sure.
From the last update I had.
We'll find out the week before it happens.
Keep your eyes peeled on social media, Chris, obviously bring you in. Obviously, the eagle-eyed amongst people will obviously notice that different setups of divisions and different kind of tiers of teams, shall we say, mixed in together. And what your thought on the concept of that? And for example, I can't remember who it is. I've got some pictures to go shortly, but there's teams in divisions that don't have the same amount of fixtures as other teams. So you're going to get teams where they've played two, one, just hypothetically played 2-1-2, and then you've got teams that have played 8-1-8, and it's just going to be like, well, that is just bonkers. But your concept on the tiering and the grouping of these divisions, and if you've got teams playing different amounts of games, why are you putting in the same group? Just have them not have them necessarily in a league, just let them play games.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I appreciate that BAFA have been put in an absolute nightmare position trying to organise something like this. And, we're the first people to say, I think they could have done that better. But at the same time, this can't have been easy. I think we can all agree on that. they've tried to go down sort of the geographical route, which I can appreciate. That didn't quite happen in Scotland, but I'm told there's multiple routes for that. I think there's some things that, possibly could have been done a wee bit better. I mean, the one example that really stands out to me was the inclusion of the Birmingham Bulls playing teams such as South Wales Warriors instead of playing Tamworth and Sandwell, who are both next door neighbours to them. And instead the Crewe Railroaders have went into that division, and there's maybe some reason behind the scenes I don't know about, but I looked at my geography maybe isn't as good as other people's, but I spent some time, I looked at it and I went, I have no idea what the thought process was in this. And ultimately, you've got teams like the Railroaders, and they've been some of them have been outspoken on social media about this upcoming season, their excitement about playing some of these better teams, but it just doesn't work like that. I mean, everyone wants to tell you that the best way to develop is to play better players, and it's not necessarily that way inclined. I mean, Sean and I, we can speak from experience anyway. When I first started out, when I was up in Aberdeen, we played, we had a controlled scrimmage, not a game, a controlled scrimmage against the East Kilbride Pirates, who at that point were like the premier team in the north. They were the best team. They were always winning that division. And we maybe ran no more than sort of 40 plays each max. It was probably even less than that. And we lost 15 people to injury that day, not through, not through anything like bad hits or late hits or unnecessary fouls, but because these guys were bigger, faster, stronger, they hit harder. And our guys were dropping like flies. And I can't help look at some of these games and think, it is just a disaster waiting to happen. And I worry for them because, there will be all this talk, and we know what it's like, especially when we went this long without Britball and everybody gets a little bit chippy. And it's what we love. It's what we love to hear people going, I can't wait to put on the pads and helmet and hit somebody. But there's got to be a bit of realism here as well, and that some of these teams are given a death sentence. They're going into play. You've got Tamworth Phoenix, who, two seasons ago, they were Britball champions. They were the only team to contend with the London Warriors in 2019, and they're playing a Crewe Railroaders team twice that went 0-8 in 2019 in Division 2. I just don't see how that works. Like, I can't see how that works, but it's how it's kind of been laid out. There's other examples, and as you spoke about, there's some where some teams are playing only 3 or 4 games. I do agree. I think it was probably a good chance to get some of the associate teams in and playing games, but could there have been a way to maybe separate these teams out? I think one of my biggest frustrations was, you've got a team like the Lee Miners who've come in and they're only playing 4 games, which is, that'll be useful for them. It'll be their first kind of foray into playing competitive games. But they're playing the Romans and the Lancashire Wolverines. And the Lancashire Wolverines and the Romans aren't playing each other. And I don't understand that, because if you look at the 2019 results, one of their games was like 33-31 or something ridiculous like that. Why are we missing out on this game? Like, why are we losing out on a game like that? And, we're talking about 2 very good Division 1 teams going against a team that haven't played before, and it just doesn't sit well with me.
No, and Sean, Chris obviously mentioned there about the Crewe Railroaders essentially given a death sentence. I've got the Mercia group up there, and it's a standout division taking them out. And obviously, no disrespect to them, but what if you're the Leicester Falcons, if you're Shropshire or you're Sandwell, you're Tamworth, and you're speaking to the Crewe Railroaders, what I suppose this is a part A and a part B. What kind of conversations do you think those two back offices and head coaches should be having with each other? Obviously, they're with no disrespect to Crewe, but you're going to be looking at second stringers, third stringers to get game time and whatnot. Do you think there'll be that kind of conversation to say, okay, do you mind playing the second or third stringers, but in the end, that brings its own baptism of fire because those guys want playing time in the first, in the kind of with the first. So, and then B is, what do you actually think will happen with those kind of games? Is it going to be a case of 50 burgers and shutouts in kind of games? What do you make of that division and the conversations that might be going on where we have circumstances where you've got associate teams, Division 2 teams going up against your Tamworths and your Prem teams that are literally machines, and like say Chris said, built bigger, faster, stronger. But I'm not going to start singing Kanye West, but your thoughts?
I think the biggest thing here is that something we've discussed over the years is that no matter how good the coach's intentions are, you put a second string player in that hasn't seen the field because when they're playing in the Prem division, they're not good enough to get on the field, and they get their one chance to go all out and chance to prove that, see, next year I'm going to be in this team. You don't think they're going to batter whoever is across from them? I know personally from being on teams that if they see someone weak that we've scouted on the other team come on, everybody is going, that's my guy. And that's not us being horrible. That is the sport. You target the weak point. You watch the NFL. This top tier corner is going off. Here comes the second guy. Where's the first place to go? Boom, straight over his head. And it's not us being mean to Crew, but Crew. Even Crew's record in Division 2 entirely isn't great. It's been above. I'm not sure it's been above 0.500. And these teams are teams that are beating up Prem teams. I mean, Tamworth now and again roll over a Prem team without them even taking a second thought of it. So I think there is that concern, is that as much as the coaches will maybe be talking in the background saying, look, we're not going to play our starters, we're going to be our second stringers, third stringers here. The second and third stringers aren't thinking that. They're thinking, I want to be a first stringer next year.
Yeah, I want to be scoring touchdowns and celebrating.
Yeah, and I think for that point that Crew's first two games are Tamworth and Samwell.
Twice.
3.
And then Tamworth.
Yeah. So by 3 games, they might be broken. And that's not us being horrible. That is purely from what experiences we've seen in the past, is that after 3 games, they might not have a squad left to compete, And I don't know how big Crew's squad is, but you get a lot of teams in Division 2 that maybe have 22, 23 players that are semi-decent. So as long as those players are all playing, that team will be fairly competitive in Division 2. But if you lose 4 or 5 of them, they crumble. Now, if you lose 10, 11 of them, you don't have a team, And I think that has to be the biggest concern for teams like Crew, who, as Chris said, have been vocal on social media, and I love their enthusiasm. And we don't like to squash that. But, something that comes up in the NFL all the time, in Britball all the time in the past, player safety. And we've always thought to ourselves, bollocks, you just couldn't be bothered getting humped. But in this term, that could seriously be a case of, guys, we can't field our 18 boys we've got left, because they're not going to have any left by game 4. And we'll wait and see how that pans out. But I think like Chris said, some of the divisions are a bit strange, and I've actually seen some stuff on the Lee Miners. I've been watching what they've been doing on their Facebook page, because they look like they've got film set up for practices and are going through everything. And obviously, that's a great thing. That's always a great start. But I don't think I've counted more than 24 players in any of their practices. And some of the stuff they're saying, big hits, looks like a guy gets trucked, And I think that's where experience comes in from teams, that some of these teams will see that and go, right, okay, well, they maybe think this is an amazing player, this guy lower in the boom, but in reality, it's not. He's just surviving by holding on to somebody. So it's one of these things. It's not us being harsh, and folk always call us out for saying stuff like this, but realistically, I've played American football now for just over 10 years, and honestly, it's that dangerous at times that folk just don't realise that you can get seriously battered in this game.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I say from my one season playing when Dunfermline were going through the associate process, and we were playing like Glasgow Tigers and all the rest of it. It's just a different breed. It's just a different breed of the opposition you're going up against. And I totally get that. I know we spoke to Jason Smith and the crew Roaders a couple of weeks ago. So if you want to go and check that out on the YouTube, anyone watching or listening and didn't realise that, go and do so. I think Jason, the gist I got from him that he was very realistic, and there would have to be a conversation had between the two teams, which you would hope and would expect would happen. But like say, not asking for the firsts and maybe getting the second and thirds, again, is not necessarily the second best option, is it? So it remains to be seen kind of what happens with that. But we'll move on to the Scottish division. Obviously, we mentioned about that being a bit strange. And Steve, obviously the Caledonia division up on the front of the screen now for those people that are watching. On paper, I absolutely love this division. Obviously Edinburgh, Inverclyde did really well in 2019. Iskall Bride have always been perennial Premiership teams. Obviously, just missed out 2019 to Samwell from that great comeback, and then Aberdeen and Glasgow are. I say no pushovers, but it's a bit strange that you have got Edinburgh in with these guys and Aberdeen as well. You would think that in the Saltire division you've got Dunfermline, which is a stone's throw away from Edinburgh, and I know that again brings us up against the Div 2 team against the Prem team, but you would think that it seems to be certainly in the Scottish side of things they've gone for tier competition levels, tier talent over kind of geographical kind of focus. But whoever Highland and Aberdeen we're going to play against, it's always going to be a couple of hour journey anyway. But it can't be
Highland's unreal. I mean, yeah, it's like it's a north facing coast, isn't it? Like it's that's a hell of a journey. I
played there, lovely place, lovely little place up there.
Yeah, wow. I'll take your word for it.
Wait, you said you're not going to go up there in August. Lovely spot in August.
Oh, I've just imagined like if they, we used to have national leagues, didn't we? And then there was always this the Prem level, and there was always banter between the Warriors and the Blitz about who's going to EKP. Going back to what Chris said about when EKP were, a force in the Prem. And every year there was this hashtag "not me to EKP" that would go around, and it was brilliant. Like they were just, it was, obviously so the consequence of the action, I just dread to think what that would have been like if it was the Highlands, like just that much further. But I think that this one's hard, right? Like when you talk about the structure of it, because if I look at those teams, the Roughnecks, the Pirates, the Wolves, the Tigers, the Goliaths. The Goliaths are maybe the one that you'd say, oh, well, they're sort of unproven, right? They've only been around a season. Been around a season where they absolutely wiped the floor with everyone, and they benefited from the folding of the West Coast Trojans. And I think there was an element of like there always is with like new teams that pop up, like getting the band back together, so. And I don't know the ins and outs of this, like the Breens are much better positioned to talk about these leagues than I am, but. That it was there was this sort of all-star team put together. They cleared everyone out, and I get why they want to put them up against the teams that probably get winning records at the end of each season. Because that's their caliber, that's where they're headed, right?
Yeah.
And then you're right. Like then you've got the geographic thing, and you're like, well, so if they'd have stuck to the geographic thing, you'd have had more of this. The situation that we just discussed, the exact same thing, right? So that you can see what they've tried to do here, which is it feels like a little bit more competition and parity within it, but it flies in the face of the logic of geography that they were doing, or that is the main. Now actually, if you look at the fixtures, what they have done a pretty good job of is ensuring that teams play each other back to back, not necessarily week after week, but you play the same opponent home and then you play them away, and then in one case they play them home 3 times in one of the divisions, and I think that that to me shows that's we originally started looking at going, that is just lazy organization, but actually when you think about it from from a COVID perspective, like actually containerizing things a bit across a number of weeks is a really that's a really clever way of doing it. And so like like we've already said, what was his name? Warren Smart was the guy that was doing the fixtures this year for BAFA, and figuring out the leagues and everything. And he had an impossible task. No matter what he did, we'd be sat here saying there was anomalies and there were things that could have been done. Well, we don't know about better yet. I suppose the proof will be in the results and stuff. But I think he sort of like. He was damned, whatever. It was a poison chalice sort of thing. Yeah. But I think he has done a fairly good job. I think I think the Scottish leagues are actually probably two of the more competitive ones.
Absolutely. I think the Caledonia League is. I'm looking forward to if any of those are on screens anywhere or anyone's doing some live streams, and I'm more than happy to watch some of those games, for sure. But Chris, looking at the kind of the Southeast division. Steve mentioned there about having teams in Scotland there playing back to back. Southeast is a bit strange in the sense that you've got Essex Spartans and East Essex are playing 3 weeks in a row, similar to what it is like in Scotland. But then you've got East Kent Mavericks playing 3 different teams 3 different weeks. So it doesn't really. Again, I appreciate Warren has got. He's not going to win. It's not a game you're going to win. But again, that in itself is just a bit of a strange one. Again, it's just another anomaly that's been thrown up.
Yeah, I mean, as we kind of said, we can keep coming back to it. It was a lose-lose situation. There was never going to be any perfect solution. And naturally, having one team playing another team 3 times in a row was going to have a knock-on effect somewhere else. I guess the advantage with this is, the teams are quite close. There's a familiarity between these teams. They've played each other before. They've also got the 2 associate teams in there. They've got the B team from the Sussex Thunder, I believe, the Thunderbolts, and this Southeast Squadron, which I'm not entirely sure where they've came from.
It's the rebranded Pumas, mate. That's what it is.
Okay, so so there's something along those lines as well, and you've got the Thunderbolts are playing 3 games, but 2 of them are against the Squadron. And one of them's against the Sabres, and then you've got the Squadron who are playing those 2 against the Thunderbolts, and I think a TBC game against the Hastings Conquerors. Even just looking at that, it's a nightmare. I mean, trying to figure out who plays who plays when, and what. I wouldn't want to do it. There's no way you'd get me signing up to do that. That's a disaster,
Well, the other thing that you need to think about is that they would have had to look at ref availability. What the clubs are saying to them. We can play a home game here, but we can't play a home game here. So can we play away on this date? Like that would have, so they would have been sent all of that, all that data. Like this week we are available for home or away. It wouldn't have just been like a shot in the dark and then feedback. But imagine that task. I think they would have had he'd have had great intention, the best of intentions trying to set out certain rules, but sometimes they just wouldn't have been applicable,
No, absolutely. And I initially saw that division. I thought, what the hell? I was like, Hastings doing in there, because I'm not sure Hastings want to be traveling over the Dartford Tunnel every other week. And then I looked at it and I thought, because I thought they could have gone into the south with like your Bournemouth Bobcats and Solent and Portsmouth, but that's still 2 hours west. I was like, okay, all right, Warren, I'll take the L. I'll take the L on that one. I'll take the L.
The 2 hours west is the least of the concerns on that one. On that.
Yeah.
You don't want them anywhere near the Solent.
I heard that the Thunder, the Sussex Thunder A team, for want of a better phrase, were originally in Southeast, and then they negotiated to go into what was Wessex, which is now South, which I think is. I know we haven't talked about the quality of the, which divisions we like, but I think that one's awesome. Yeah.
But that brings us quite nicely on. And Sean, I'll come to you first. Any particular division that you're looking forward to? I've got 6 divisions here that I've got pictures for. So if you pick one of them, I can put them up. So if you if you don't, I can't.
I'll go look at my list here. I've got a list. There's 2 divisions in particular that caught my eye.
I can give you my favourite while you're looking, and I know it's one of yours as well. It's the Thames Valley division.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Thames Valley is it? Yeah, I haven't got that one, so I can't put that up.
I mean, I can quickly sort of If I can
That's
find
all,
it,
that's your Oxford and Hertfordshire and that stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, really competitive, that one.
Yeah.
Hertfordshire, Wembley. I love it. I love that division, and I'm going to be keeping an eye on that one. That's for sure.
I think you're right. I think Wessex, depending on what happens with Portsmouth, there was little rumours going about, but we don't know. Depending on what happens with them, that is probably the teams are probably going to have the best competition. Like that's a seriously good division. Rushmore Knights have just come down, but they were still competitive in some of their games in the Premiership last year. The Solent Thrashers looked like they had a ridiculous sized squad in the final last year. I don't think even I'm pretty sure their coach said to us that they couldn't even field everybody. And Sussex are always there or thereabouts. They're a decent team. So that division is really good. The other one I really like is let me just have a look at this one. I know I'm building up now. But I think Mercia is really good. Obviously we've spoke about Crewe. Obviously we spoke about Crewe, but Shropshire Revolution always have a decent team. They always have some monsters on the offensive line, that's for sure, and they always have a decent squad. And you look at obviously Tamworth, Leicester, Sandwell. They've had their battles in the past, and some really good games in that lot. Especially like me and Chris are particularly looking forward to Leicester versus Sandwell because they've battled it out, and Leicester have won pretty much everyone. I think, is that right, Chris? I think they've won every game against Sandwell, have they? In the past?
Certainly in recent history, they've always come out on top in that game. And then obviously Leicester came down in 2019. Sandwell went up in 2019. But there was a lot of talk before the season started about Leicester, not being allowed to field several players, I believe, was an issue at the start of that season. So I don't know the ins and outs of it. So please don't quote me on it because I don't actually know exactly what went on. But, that's a game to watch. Sandwell, as much as a lot of teams are going to be looking at things and thinking, we're going to get guys game time. There's a lot on the line in that game because Leicester will be using it as an excuse if they beat Sandwell to say, see, if we had everyone available, we'd still be in the Premier Division. Sandwell obviously want to make a statement after going up. I think that could be a really spicy game when they play each other. So definitely something to keep an eye on.
Certainly. Sorry, Sean. Yeah, certainly the Mercia division for me is the standout division, and Caledonia probably the next one. But I kind of have Scottish allegiances anyway. But Sean, go on. What were you saying?
No, I think you're right. I was going to say that the Scottish divisions the Caledonia division is class, and obviously there'll be huge rivalry going on there between Wolves and East Kilbride because East Kilbride were the number one team in Scotland for a long time. The Wolves stole that off them, and now I think the Wolves have obviously changed the head coach, who I had never actually met, but I've now met through a coaching course, and he seems to be pretty on the ball with his coaching knowledge and stuff like that. So you just never know what happens when you get a new coach. And there's a lot of players that I played with at the Edinburgh Wolves back in 2011, 2012, and they're not around anymore. But they've still got their star linebacker core, and they've still got a huge offensive line, aggressive defense. So you just never know with them. And if you look at East Kilbride, if they have a passing game and a running game, are excellent. But when it was, I was ready to say pushing it down, but when it was peeing down with rain in the Northumberland game last year, Northumberland beat them because it was evenly matched lines and there was just no moving the ball and there was loads of penalties. So that's going to be interesting. But I think there is some divisions that are really, really good. And have some class games to watch out for. So that's always a positive.
Yeah, absolutely. Go on, Chris.
I mentioned the Thames Valley thing, and I think one thing that they'll be extremely interesting to watch out for in that division is actually the London Blitz B. They obviously missed out. They got beaten in the semi-final by the South Wales Warriors, but 3 teams went up to Division 1 that year, and the Blitz were passed up, shall we say. And there's been a bit of heated words, I believe, between the Essex Spartans and the Blitz B about who should have went up and who actually went up. The Blitz B are getting a chance to prove themselves against Division 1 teams, and I think they could be a tasty team to watch. I think they get a chance to prove that they can be competitive. So I think they'd be a good team to keep an eye on this year.
And the real answer is nobody should have been moved up because they never made the final. It never goes well.
Steve, just before we move on to kind of yes or no kind of predictions, any particular division or any particular fixture that stands out for you? You're looking forward to?
Yeah, so interesting. Most of the ones that you guys have mentioned, I sort of have my little short list of ones that I think are good. So Mercia, Caledonia, Thames Valley, but there's two that in particular that I think that are worth sort of calling out. Well, one already has been, which is South. I know those South teams very well. I know a lot of people and the head coaches from a lot of the team, from three of the teams actually. And you've got a situation where three teams think they're going to go 8-0, like genuinely, like that's what they think. That can't happen, right? And then you've also got another team, in the Bournemouth Bobcats. I don't know what they think their record is going to be, but they'll probably fancy themselves for a 50% win ratio plus. There's a good season. All of those things can't happen, and so I think there's a lot of drama to play out there. I think it's a league that you won't have. We know Portsmouth's a little bit up in the air, but you won't have like the teams like dropping out, or there's not worries of like forfeits at half time and all the can we play a running clock, or like you said, the head coach speaking to the other head coach and saying, can you play your backups or whatever. None of that. Like, it will be fierce competition between these teams. And I only know that because I'm so close to the teams. I'm sure that exists elsewhere, but I'm calling that one out because I played for one of the teams. Well, two of the teams. I played for the Thrashers and the Knights, so I know about them. And then the last league, which I'm surprised no one's spoken about yet, but is London. Now, London has got the London Blitz, the London Warriors, the London O's, and Kent. And Kent, what are they? Third or fourth season Premier level, they really started to gain momentum and attract players because they've got that it's not like a shot, it's not like a one-off that they got into the league and now they're going to drop out again. Like they're stable, right? And that's when you start attracting a lot more people. The thing I hate about that league is that it's only 6 games per team. I don't know why you don't want to see more London Warriors versus London Blitz versus the O's. That's definitely one thing that I would say has been a miss on the league, is like that London league is all Prem caliber. Like it's some of the best teams in the country are playing in that league, and you're restricting them to just 6 games each. And I just think it'd be interesting, I suppose the knock-on effect, like a player's up for playing a 6-game league, and wins and losses become more valuable, which is great. But at the same time, don't we want to have more of that high level play within the sport? So those are sort of my 5 I call out. But I think in particular there's a bit of a sob story there with the London league, being so restricted, so limited.
Yeah. On a side note, do we think that Bristol are happy they don't have to go to London every week?
Yeah.
It is, isn't it? Yeah. Well, and Solent, Solent were. Yeah. No, I definitely think so, and I think, but I also think that makes sense that both of those teams are staying rather than making those long trips up the M3 and M4.
The thing with the London division for me, and I don't want to say too much because there's a bit of a previews kind of next on my list, I believe, but I think it lost a lot of its shine with how much the Warriors battered the Blitz in 2019. I don't think anybody we know the Warriors over these last few years have been, the team. They maybe didn't they didn't get to Britball in 2018. I think they got knocked out by Tamworth in the semi-final, something like that maybe. But the Warriors have been the team. But I don't think anyone predicted, I think, I said it was something like a combined 120 to 14 over the 2 games or something like that to the Warriors. And I think a lot of people are kind of just dismissing that, probably wrongly, because they're looking at it going, well, it's just going to be the Warriors slapping the daylights out of 3 other teams twice, and that's it. And it's maybe a bit unfair, but I think that's maybe why people are maybe not really talking about it as much. Yeah,
that's a fair comment. I think that's a fair comment. But then again, there's interesting because there's several things that can contribute to the quality of their play. I know of a lot of those elite level, that high level game players that have looked overseas and been successful in playing, especially with the EFL, the European League. Those teams there's 6 teams out there that play domestically and then play in this collective, and that's expanded their squad. So there's been a lot more imports from their perspective, right? Exports from ours. So I know they'll be, they're going to take the cream off of our Premiership, or the available cream, right? But then another thing that I think is a really interesting factor, and I don't know how this would play out yet. Maybe it will come into fruition a little bit in a couple of years' time. But the NFL Academy have got graduates now, right? Like, people have graduated out of the NFL Academy, which is run by Tony Allen and a lot of his coaches from London Warriors. And I just wonder how many of those people would then seek to go and play under Tony, that maybe didn't go on to get a higher education, because it's college. It's like A levels level, right? So some of them go to uni, some go to some of them have got scholarships, which is fantastic. How many of them are just going to continue to play and want to stay under the tutelage of Tony Allen and his coaches? Especially when you understand the story of F.A. Obada and the on the coaching staff, you've got a Super Bowl champion in Marvin Allen, right? Like that. For me, it's there will be a certain point where the Warriors will benefit from all of these, because there's a huge number of players at the NFL Academy, and it'd just be interesting to see what happens there. So I think, like I said, from one view, you've got players leaving, but actually there may be a whole new crop of players, really exciting players to come in, and that's what I mean. I really want to see this stuff happen. I want to see these guys play, but they don't have to go to the Warriors. They could go anywhere. They just maybe open up to Britball.
Yeah, no,
so
I was going to say
a lot of new players coming in.
Yeah, let's say if they do stay, then hopefully they may leak out to the O's or to Blitz or whatever. So because the Warriors, you would assume, would be a hotbed of talent, and again, game time might be harder to come by. So you might find people going to Blitz B, and Olympians and whatever. So certainly would be interesting to see the ramifications of what goes on the academy. All right, say last we're kind of round off then with the preview with some predictions. Steve, we'll start with you. To give us a team that was surprised us, either good or bad, and maybe a short sentence as to why.
Oh, a team, and you started with me.
All right, I'll save your blushes. I'll go with Chris first.
Go on then. All right. I'm gonna have a look through, and I want to properly answer this question. I do have one.
I'll give you one if you want. Yeah, on you go, Steve.
Hold on. I think the Chester Romans are going to be a surprise package, and I think they're going to be a surprise package because, and it may be me jumping on the hype train, but I think they just seem to be making all the right moves at the moment off the field. Their social media is fantastic. But in that, they within their social media, they let you in on little insights to their organisation, and that's what I think perhaps why some clubs go dark, as it were, and don't want to give anyone any ins. But they've got competition for every single position, and literally quarterbacks coming out their ears. I think their linebackers, that they said there was 11 or 12 linebackers that they've got, and you think and I said to the Breens, we were chatting the other day, and I was like, that's your special teams, right? If you've got linebackers in abundance, that they're the ones that get pulled in their special teams. run down there and smash someone, mate. And all of that lifts the game. And I think it's going to be a very exciting place to be. And I think they're going to be. I think they're one to watch. I'm expecting them to overachieve on what the expectations are of them from previous seasons.
Sure. In 2021, then Steve could see we've heard of 3-4 and 4-3 defenses, maybe the 0-11 defense. I don't know. Who knows?
Just 2 yards off and you see what you do. Yeah.
The Scotland football team defense, 10 men on the line.
Yeah, absolutely. You heard it here first. That'd be amazing, wouldn't it? All right, Chris, Sean, you said you had one as well. Give us a team that we might surprise us in 2021.
Well, one team that I wrote in one of my articles that I thought was going to take a step up was Wembley Stallions. Now, Wembley Stallions last year, in 2019, started really slow, but by the end of the season, we're rolling. And it'll be interesting to see if they've managed to keep the momentum going. They're in a highly competitive division that was already like highly competitive a couple of years ago with Cambridgeshire and London Hornets and Bury. Now, so they've proved themselves against good teams before, and I think that they are potentially one of the teams that could do really well. If I had to have a wild card, though, it would potentially be the Hereford Stampede. I believe they've trounced pretty much every other associate team they've played. Am I right, Chris? Is that the ones that have been trouncing everyone?
To be fair, them and the Knights have both.
Yeah,
very
I think
stellar.
they've trounced everybody in the associate states, and they have a division that, other than the Aztecs, is full of kind of teams that are decent, but you never know what you're going to get. So South Wales have a really good defense. Birmingham have a really good defense, but don't have much offense. Swindon Storm. I'm not going to even bother saying the Black Knights name because I always get it bloody wrong.
The
But
sauce.
the sauce, yeah. I can't say it. I don't know what it is. I want to say I can't say that, and I can't say is it Hertfordshire or Hertfordshire?
No, Berkshire. You always get
them
wrong. Berkshire. You
Is
say
it
Berkshire. Yeah.
They're not here this year, so you can avoid saying that one.
Yeah.
I can't help it.
If you've ever seen the third Shrek, it's when Donkey goes whoosh, dash, dash, the shirey, and I video it and send it to Sean every time and go, hey, look at you.
Brilliant.
For my surprise packages, I obviously can't go sort of the same route. A team I'd like to see be a surprise package. I'm not saying there will be. A team I'd love to see, the London Olympians. I really want to see them do well this year. They were mighty close to the Blitz in both games in 2019. Obviously, I don't know what goes on with them behind the scenes. I'd love to see that. I think what would be good this year is to see them at least take one of those games against, say, the Blitz, and just kind of. I think that kind of sets off a wee bit of an alarm bells. It's been Blitz Warriors. That's it. That's the only teams you care about in the South. I'd love to see the Olympians get one of those wins. I think that would.
That's an interesting one because Coach Rick has gone back. Rick Ahab's gone back to the Olympians, and I follow them on social media as well, and they've been very active and good. But they've had tons of really impressive coaching talks and sessions and
share the knowledge stuff has been. I've got a lot of time for Rick. Yeah, a lot of time.
Yeah. He's amazing, and his record is unreal. A fantastic motivator. Good man manager. And one of the and really that's been something that's been missed under Coach Neo. It was like a revolving door. There was constantly quality players coming into that squad over 3-4 years, but they couldn't keep hold of them. And Rick is good at establishing that fire in people like any good coach would, but he gets them to stick around and be part of this community, this family thing. And I see a lot more content and a lot more of the rhetoric coming from that club leans towards that now Rick's back. So Chris, I think that's a good shout. And it would be amazing. It would be amazing for them to start chipping away at those, at the top of the top tier.
I think it makes 2022 that bit more exciting because all of a sudden,
can you do it when it's competitive? That's the big question, isn't it, right?
The South matters again. It's not just who's going to play the Blitz or the Warriors. It's now going, can the Olympians make it into the playoffs? Yeah. As for a team, I think will genuinely be a surprise, and the division, makes it a bit, I guess, maybe slightly less surprising. Highland Stags, right? I think a lot of people assume because they're an associate team that, you've not really heard about them because, even for an Aberdonian, they're North, right? And that's saying a lot. I think they're a better team than people will give them credit for.
Absolutely agree. They've I say part of the associate process I did with Dunfermline. We went up there and we played them a couple of times. They are as dedicated as players I've ever seen. They obviously, because they are just so out in the wilderness, they're not necessarily really interested in going to other teams, pursuing careers in the sport. But I tell you what, they play as hard as anyone I've ever played against. And I know that's not saying a lot because I've got a small sample size, but there's a reason why they choose, some seasons choose to stay associate, or their youth and cadet stuff is fantastic as well. So yeah, I'm fully on board with what Chris said there.
They are the perfect example of what I described earlier as a Division 2 team. They have 22 or 23 boys that will knock your teeth out if you look at them the wrong way, but then there's nothing after. And I say that with a bit. Their youth teams have been amazing for years up there, and they've got a nice setup. I actually, my partner's family lives up there, so I actually drove past their facility. So it looks like it's getting redone at the moment. And but when we played them, they had their starters battered you, and they were rough. And if you look at and the reason Chris will be saying them is because if you look at their results against the Inverclyde Goliaths, the year before the Inverclyde Goliaths went all the way and won the division, it was not easy. Like, they were tough games. They weren't runaways for Inverclyde. And Inverclyde took time to get into their division and then sneaked into the playoffs. And once they got into the playoffs, they took off. So Highland could be exactly the same. And it will be interesting to see.
Yeah. So, Sean, just to touch on that quickly, your partner's family are up in the Highlands, and your extended family are down in Portsmouth.
Yeah,
you can't escape us, Steve. We're everywhere.
Yeah, but I was up in Dingwall a couple of weeks ago because the Highland team play in Invergordon, as far as, well, they used to. I'm sure they still do. So I was actually down, like, drove past their facility, and then our other extended family are all down in Portsmouth. So it's like total opposite ends of the country.
Anyone fancy a Britball final between Highland Stags and Portsmouth?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That'd be him.
Yeah.
Play it in the Midlands. There we go. Anyway, all right. Well, there we go. There's some predictions. There's some teams that we think might surprise us. So let's get out of here. We are running a tiny bit over schedule, but yeah. Before we let you guys go, you guys do a lot of fabulous work. So I've been reading and watching your guys' stuff over Facebook and what's the other one? Website Gridiron Hub. But Steve, just to tell us a bit more about obviously what you do, and obviously I'll come on to the Breens shortly with their podcast and stuff. But yeah, give a bit more about what you do for the game and all the different facets and all the different ways people can get involved.
Yeah, so we've obviously got Gridiron Hub, which is like a community / media outlet. It's sort of a blend of, like, we sort of involve a lot of community type stuff and push different efforts and encourage, best practice and shared practice. And, like, we want the sport to grow. We try and work with people that have got the same mindset, long term, give to the sport, give more than you take, that sort of thing. And that's been, been going for a number of years now. We're actually on the cusp of a redesign, rebrand. It was supposed to be middle of next month, but my web developers just told me that it's going to be later than that, which kills me, but that's fine. I bought £2,000 worth of merchandise. It's sat in boxes over there, and I can't do anything with it. But yeah, so that's that's soon to morph into something a lot different. And the Breens have seen, the Breens know a lot about what we're planning, and I can't tell you yet, but there's another dynamic, a huge addition to what we do, which we hope is beneficial to the sport, but also the rebrand stuff. The new website looks unreal, like just completely different to what we do now. And then you've got really the other element is like our non-profit side. So our non-profit side it includes Hail Mary Hits, which has been running for a few years now. Yep. We took it over about 9-10 months ago, roughly. But although it was on our domain, we did their ticketing for a couple of years, and then Mark, who was running it, was going to pack it in, and I was like, no, let us take it. So he, very grateful to him for allowing us to do it now. And then we've also got our own non-profit arm, and we've had to sort of reshape it a little bit, but. We've got the Amelie Fund, which essentially money from Hail Mary Hits and our own non-profit raffles goes into, and then it's a fund that we then spend money on the development and the growth and the promotion and encouragement of the game. So we recently paid out about $2,000 in some to different teams for equipment to start the season off. We're building up some money now to include the Irish leagues, so we're going to do some Irish and Northern Irish teams next. After that, so another big initiative that we just started was actually because of this sort of I can't remember the guy's name, the Danish player that went into cardiac arrest on the field
Ericsson.
a week ago. Ericsson, thank you. I noticed that's been at the fore of a lot of people's minds, and it was even my own missus was like, well, you're older, that could happen to you. I was like,
thanks.
She's like, do they have? I was like,
you got life insurance, Steve.
Yeah, that was it. That was the conversation. So how soon can we get the money? Yeah. So anyway, yeah. So I started thinking about it. She said, like, the teams have defibrillators. I said, yeah, actually, teams have asked us to fund them, I think we funded one and a while ago, and but I thought, like, let's try and do something a bit more grand and see if we can get defibrillators for everyone. So I posted in our community group that we've got as well, and there was a lot of interest in it. But so he's actually a doctor, and he's part of the GB women's team structure. Came on and suggested, why don't you instead educate people on CPR and AEDs. He said that, like, it's more cost effective. So for a lower spend, you'd have better impact. Rather than just having the equipment, why not teach lots of people how to be able to do it? So so that's what we're pursuing now and looking at, and we'll be doing some big promotions. Now, the way that we raise money is through raffles. So we raffle off things, signed NFL items for the 8 Hail Mary Hits guys, anything of interest for the non Hail Mary Hits stuff, and it's so we've got very ambitious plans and continued growth. We're going to start doing more like wider events and community and like charity games to raise money as well.
Nice.
But that all comes with the rebrand. We've also got, I'll let you in on a little exclusive. So we're going to start doing like some marketing videos for the non-profit stuff in a hope to push the raffles and push revenue into that to build up the pot of money. And one of the things I've got a guy building a drone that can drop a football on command. So
nice.
we'll be running competitions where we go to like training sessions, shoot this drone up like 40 foot, 50 foot or whatever, and then drop it and challenging people to catch it for some money or whatever. So nice. So we've got some like cool things that we're bringing in. It's just there's loads of stuff tied up with this rebrand, but it looks like I still haven't got my rebrand new date yet, but I just said to the web developer, let's get this season out of the way and then let's do it. So so that's sort of before the end of the year, we'll have a lot of this new stuff start rolling out. But that's it. That's what we do.
Yeah, love it. Let's say love it. Love your work. And Sean, Chris, obviously, you mentioned off before we hit the record that you're looking to obviously get back together and get the YouTube going again. And obviously you write articles at the moment, but what can, without giving too much away, because Steve's obviously just button hold your mouths, your lips together. But what can people expect from you guys for this season and beyond?
Chris, you want to say, or do you want me to go forward?
You can go. I'll fill in anything I think.
Yeah, so basically, Steve gave us an opportunity to start running on his channel as a show. We had wanted to do it for years, really, and we thought it was the perfect opportunity to do it. We have the perfect last name for a show. It just kind of goes together just right. And basically, we started off with the Picks Leagues on Gridiron Hub, and we won them 2 years in a row. And I think folks started to follow what we're saying and realize, actually, they're not just picking out of thin air. But this year, we're going live. So we've never done it live before. We used to just record it in my living room. And we used to just share it out to YouTube from there. But this year, Steve has asked us if we'll do it live. So on a Saturday night, 8 o'clock, we will do our predictions on a live show. Everybody who's playing the next day should obviously be sitting at home resting up, waiting for the game the next day. So it should be perfect timing. We'll go through our predictions. We have a few little things we won't say anything about just now. However, we can tell you that we will have guests on this time. So our first guest will be from Hertfordshire. the Hertfordshire Cheetahs. He'll be on because they have their Military Appreciation Bowl next Sunday.
Right.
So we'll have someone from Hertfordshire on to do a bit about that, and then they will do their picks with us. Except for obviously they get the choice whether they do their own division, because we never choose our own team. That was our one rule, is that if we're playing, we say nothing because it just adds fuel to the fire. Let's say so.
And as a quarterback, I don't need that kind of negativity.
No. So I think we've got a few things planned. We've got two different charity events that are quite close to us that we'll put up on a weekly basis and speak about, and we'll try and get people on to speak about them as well. But basically, it'll be a rebrand of our show originally, which will just be live instead of pre-recorded and stuck up.
I think also we're quite keen. It'll be easier for people to follow it, I reckon. And also it gives people an opportunity to get in touch and kind of respond to what we're saying. We know we've already spoke about how the Britball community can be quite keen to tell you how wrong you are. But that's what we want. We want interactions with the people involved. We want them to be involved. Tell us why we're wrong. We're not going to get everything right. But we want to give that opportunity to kind of interact with people that are involved. And yeah, just kind of expand on what we do. Ultimately what we do, while it may just seem like it's just predictions, we're trying to bring the game to everyone else. We want to, you're often pigeonholed. You're talking about us coming from Aberdeen. It can be quite easy to think about just Aberdeen and nobody else. We're trying to make sure, we're trying to get people thinking about the teams around them and what's going on across the leagues as well. And I think it's going to be a better opportunity for us to kind of expand on that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And Steve, I'll finish off with you. Just want to shout out some social handles where people can find you and the guys and for the upcoming season.
Yeah, so we're pretty much, all of it is at Gridiron Hub 1, because at Gridiron Hub wasn't available. And then there's at the Amelie Fund as well for those two. Then there's also the Hail Mary Hits community group. Can I just quickly mention one more thing that is massive that I completely forgot?
Yeah, you go for it.
So they're doing the Saturday night show, and we're going to be doing a Sunday show, a live one, and it's massive. And I can't I'm scrambling around this week trying to figure out because we've got a virtual studio, so it looks like a real studio. You can zoom in, and we look like we're sat at desks and all that. So that's exclusive too. I haven't said anything about that yet. But yeah, so I've been working like a dog on it, worrying about it all week, and I will be next week as well. And that's massive for us. So it's going to be live. I still haven't figured out a start time, but I'm starting to look at 1:30. We did originally pitch it at 5. I need to sort of change that because it's a bit too late. It'll clash with the NFL show. So we want to basically capture the results live and then also a little bit of the banter and have some, because people can call in and we can have them on video calls and all that sort of stuff. So very similar, the format has been ripped off from Gillette Soccer Saturday. And even the screens.
There's been an ejection at Wembley. Has there, Chris?
Yeah.
I don't know. Has there?
Yeah. Oh, mate, that was at Portsmouth as well. That was Chris Kamara. So it's that's enormous for us. It's something that again is giving back to the sport. Hopefully, will help raise the profile of a lot of these teams and the great plays that people are doing and what players are up to, and but also just the sport in general. With because there's another thing out there that people can watch. So yeah, we're going to do our best to sort of promote that and push it. It will evolve, it will grow. There will be different hosts. I can't do that all on my own. But I'm really looking forward to getting involved in that. And I think the combination of, the Breens with their analytics and, and their previews and their reviews and the picks, and then us with the live stuff, really building the energy for stuff and putting a spotlight on it. Hopefully, that'll add a lot of value back into the game for this season. And it's good because it's we're taking it seriously, but it's almost like a little bit of a trial run, because
this is the season to do it.
This is the season, absolutely. It could completely mess it up, both of us, and it's fine. But we're hoping that this time next year when it's not even this time next year, is it? It will be sooner when the new season starts 10 months from now. Hopefully we're in a competitive situation and we'll have some really nice slick coverage of everything. So that's a massive thing that I just decided to not tell you.
And so just a word of advice that Sean and Chris are saying about going live. Once you've done the first one live, the second one, it just becomes like a normal one anyway. So it's all in your head on that one. So as someone who's done pre-recorded stuff, obviously this is pre-recorded, but to then go live and all over the place. Once the camera starts going,
we've done a lot of live interviews and shows and stuff. We did like Madden tournaments live and stuff. So you're comfortable with it, but like this is a new technology. This is like, I've sort of got to act like a producer as well as a presenter, and I'm not sure how that's going to go down. But I'm cool with it. It's mine to mess up, and it's fine.
That's fine. Well, at least you've decided my slot for me, so I'm going to be Sunday morning. So I'll be sandwiched in between you guys. Thanks for that. I've scouted you out. That's the whole point of this.
Yeah,
episode.
perfect.
I'm joking. Sunday morning
from the locker room.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's Steve's wardrobe. I don't think I think I'm not too far away from you, Steve. I think from previous conversations. But anyway, that's going to do it for today's episode. Hope you enjoyed the season preview. Thanks to obviously Steve, Sean, and Chris for joining me again. Make sure you go and check out the guys' work over at Gridiron Hub and others on their social channels as well. Lots of good stuff coming out from those guys. Of course, here at Full 10 Yards, we'll be bringing you fixtures. We'll be bringing you interviews as we have been doing over the last month or two as the Britball season goes. And there'll be some other social stuff as well. So make sure you follow us at F10Y Britball on the Twitter. Another announcement coming in the next week or so regarding another person we are helping getting qualified as a coach. So watch out for that as well. That'll be on the website, that'll be on social, all the rest of it. But obviously this time next week, results will be in the books. So fingers crossed we get some games. Hopefully we get through the whole season. So eyes peeled for all of those, and say we'll be bringing you as much information, as much of a service as we can. But until that point, let's look forward to the Britball season. Let's look forward to hopefully a lot of games. We'll be back next week with another interview. But in the meantime, thanks to Steve, Sean, and Chris once again. We will see you next week when we do this all again for the game.